Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Dr. Kenton Wakes Up. I'm Dr. Kenton. In the Belloc cup today is Cameron's Breakfast Blend Fresh. I made it fresh this morning. Uh, it's the 23rd of July, 2025. This one might get a little political, and I blame myself for listening to a political podcast as I was walking Winston. There's a consistent argument about the right of Israel to exist as a Jewish state. Trying to talk carefully because I don't want to get the details wrong. And I inevitably will, but I'm going to try. A Jewish state that was established in the late 1940s after World War II. I don't know that you could make a strong enough claim to suggest it is in response to the Holocaust that took place at the hands of Germans and other Allied entities during World War II, but chronologically it did occur after World War II. The the interest group called the Jews wanted for there to be a sovereign, protected state for them to find refuge, for them to have a homeland. And I don't think it's um, I don't think that it's under debate how Israel came to be. There was a decision made to um, lay down on paper the boundaries of a country. And what happened to the people who were already living there? There was, as I understand it, there was a process for them to be compensated or relocated for free or whatever. Again, I'm going to get some of these details wrong. The point is, there's a national homeland for Jewish people in a place currently called Israel. Now, the point that I'm trying to get to is that putting a putting a geographical hook on an existential argument is a weak position to hold. Let me jump back just a little bit. In 1989 and 1990, the early part of 1990 and the late part of 1989, the academic year, 89-90, I lived in Switzerland and went to school there. During that time, my host family hosted a group of people from a town called Haifa. The person who was there, Kamal Assad, I'm just pulling from my memory. That's what this is about. Playfully trying my best, but maybe correcting the details later. Hey Google, stop. My devices listen, and I didn't ask for their advice, but they started spewing it, so I turned it off. I apologize if you're offended by that. The point is that during that visit, a guy from Haifa was there. He is he's now deceased. He was Palestinian, not Arab. He's Palestinian and a Christian, devout Christian. And to an American boy, 18 years old, this seemed like an anomaly. something that needed to be understood more better. So I asked. I knew some of the world renowned players in the game, so I asked a question. What does the PLO and Yasser Arafat want in exchange for lasting peace in territory that's now disputed between Israel and the PLO? Because in 1967, just a scant 20 years after the nation was established, a coalition of neighboring countries, mostly Egypt, tried to attack and invade Israel with the intent to destroy it. And Israel fought back, resisted. Um, 6 Day War. If you want to look up the actual details, I'm just trying to quickly get to the meat. After the 6 Day War, Israel had, during the 6 Day War, taken territorial claim over three properties that were not originally part of Israel. These were the Golan Heights, the Gaza Strip, and the West Bank. Type those three couplets into Google and you'll come to perhaps a Wikipedia page that talks about this dynamic. When I was speaking to this gentleman from Haifa, I asked what it was that the PLO wanted. And he said, return the Golan Heights, return the Gaza Strip, return the West Bank. Seems straightforward enough to me, but I'm neither Israeli nor military minded nor many things probably required to understand this properly. But as I said initially, a geographic hook on an existential living place is a dangerous way to be manipulated and controlled from the outside, frankly. What the Jewish interest groups wanted after World War II was a homeland. A homeland was established for them. Yes, they were attacked. Trying to see on this page if there's any. I'm going to look at the 6 Day War page. All right, it says 6 Day War was fought between Israel and a coalition of Arab states, primarily Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. In any event, the the current argument, according to this podcast I listened to this morning, is that the older Jewish people, people like my age and older, view Israel as a proxy for Jewish identity, and thus any threat to the geographic territory that's called Israel is actually an attack on Jews. That was the position laid out. The more the opinion held by younger people the guy hosting the podcast said progressive. I don't know. The guy, the opinion is that Israel is a protected place where, yes, Jews have their homeland, but should not be expected to have economic, political, military, whatever, supremacy. If people come to Israel and they are not Jews, they have an equal right to exist on a par with any Jewish citizen. After all, as I tried to summarize quickly before, there were a lot of Palestinians on that territory, and they view the same place as their territorial right. Thus, why PLO was established. Now, PLO had a violent resistance approach where modern day political thinking suggests that nonviolent political approaches are stronger and better. I do not, given the current leadership in Israel, I do not believe that they are willing to negotiate ceding back the Golan Heights, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip, even though, and I need to look this up, there was an agreement about um, a legitimate country structure within what is unfortunately disputed territory, Golan Heights, sorry, Gaza Strip and West Bank, where the Palestinian Authority was supposed to have political influence. So, in the sense that there was an agreement, in the sense that there was an agreement after 1967 to allow the Palestinian Authority to exist, and in geographically specified locations. Any action to prevent that seems like an invasion. I'm not taking Palestine's side. I'm not anti Israel. I'm just saying what it looks like. I'm not suggesting that there should be violent uprising and upheaval and reprisals. I'm not saying that at all either. I'm just saying, since 1967, the Gaza Strip especially has been contended. Israel suggests that it's a strategic location from which uh, violent terrorist attacks can be launched. And they have evidence to support that position. What what I would suggest is you have the Palestinians have a location that is theirs by accord. And if there are terrorist attacks coming from that location, it is the responsibility of the national authority to make them stop or pay the price. And the price is to be invaded. Well, solve your own problem or I will solve it for you, basically. I think that if okay, so let's boil it down. Let's oversimplify it to make it seem even more ridiculous and inaccurate a metaphor as possible. Let's say there's a guy. Let's say there's two houses on the same street, and let's say there's a city block, and one guy owned the entire city block except for one corner property. All right. The guy has his city block set up the way he wants, and the person's corner property has aspirations. And he builds a structure on it, which is his right to do, of course. If it turns out that the guy that owns the corner property, either willingly or unwillingly, has people living there with him who are causing damage and destruction to the properties that are in the rest of the city block, the guy who owns the larger property has a right to demand that the guy who owns the corner property do something about it. Now, what's in dispute in this case is whether the guy who owns the rest of the corner block has the right to hire a bulldozer and knock down the structure that exists there. And to me, in my oversimplified, ignorant, 54 years an American perspective, it seems like that's what's going on here. The person who owns the rest of the block says, "This is my, um, this is me protecting me and mine." And the guy who owns that corner property is doing nothing to stop these attacks against my persons and property. So I've sensed that until we can get people to sit down at the table together in good faith and be willing to acknowledge that there's a lot of bad blood, get that off the table first. I'm not saying it's impossible, it's just going to take a really long time. And there has to be a steadfast political will to see it happen. Punish the terrorists. Put them out on the street. Ostracize them. Cut them off from their material support, their social support. Because otherwise it never ends. And what I would lastly say is that the people who have a religious political outlook slash viewpoint, um, I would encourage from a stoic philosophical perspective to consider that a physical location is not a proxy for religious faith. There was no homeland for a couple thousand years, and now there is one. That doesn't mean that the world must. The world has had problems with Jewish people for various different reasons, and I don't understand them all. I just think that's a fact. Now they have a protected place to be. So that nation is a nation just like any other. That nation doesn't automatically receive religious protection, where any act that happens to affect citizens of that country or territory of that country becomes an attack against Jews. No, at the worst, it would be an attack against that country. So anyway, this is me going off for 20 minutes. Just seems to me that pinning your hopes on the existence of a particular place of geography is a weak perspective, because if you look at the history of the surface of the earth, there aren't too many places that have stayed under one country's protection forever. Oh shit, I should have put the A in the center. There was a clue given that I didn't. Let's see if this is in there. Oh shit. There's a lot of. Let's stick with my. So otherwise, I'm going to start using double letters, which I don't like doing. Wow. Okay. There could have been a double T or a double R in there, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, happy birthday to Slash. I hope he's having a good day. 23rd of July. I said that. Today's Wednesday. It's this week is a little different than other weeks. I'm going to be taking a shower and heading to work down in Towson today. Um, doing just trying to lay the groundwork. I recognize a portion of my issue is feeling like I don't have the time to concentrate. Sometimes got the time, but not the will. So I'm trying to align both those things to happen at the same time, and it's not always easy. All right, then. I hope that you have a great day. Happy Hump Day. Oh, jeez, I forgot to wish my buddy a happy Hump Day. All right, so I've done that. All right, have a great day, and I'll talk to you again probably tomorrow. Love you. Bye.